This presentation done by Aaron McMichael of Accu-Finish. He'll be demonstrating a variety of sharpening techniques for cutting tools. As we know, Accu-Finish is legendary in the sharpening industry for low-cost methods to resharpen and fabricate machinist tools without heat. Some of the tools he'll be demonstrating will be sharpening will be carbide insert, end mills, cemented carbide tools, high-speed steel, ceramic tools, reamers, and many more. You know, I had a chance to visit with Aaron yesterday, and I think this guy, he's got too much time on his hands. He's a machinist by trade, and he was elaborating on another little engine project he was going to be working on. I don't know how the guy gets this stuff done, but I think you guys will enjoy this talk. So, Aaron, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, can everybody in the back hear okay?
Check, check. Everybody can hear? Yeah. Okay. Welcome, and thanks for having me. My name's Aaron McMichael. I'm with Glendo Accu-Finish Tool Sharpeners. My background is a machinist. That's why I got hired on with the company, because I could sharpen tools, and I've done a number of all the major machine tool shows in the country, and some out of the country too. So my sickness in machining is model engineering. I do have a small product line that I do too, but I come back from a background of I made printing presses industrially, did a lot of work in the industrial for like Caterpillar, out in the field machining parts that were bad and putting them back together. And then I set a machine shop up for gearboxes, a German gearbox company out there, tool and die maker. So I've done a lot of machining. Now it's the stuff that I enjoy to do for fun. I'm a member of the North American Model Engineering Society, and I do that show every year. And David has been there a couple times. I've seen him there. So anyway, that's kind of my background. Usually when you talk tool sharpening, a big wall goes up. You know, it's just like, I don't know how to do it, you know. And so hopefully this will kind of give you some easy ways to sharpen tools that with no heat. So I will go through sort of the mechanics of the machine. We have two machines. This is a Series 1. We have a Series 2 Accu-Finish, more industrial model. It has ball bearings on the table, where this one here slides on bushings. It has the Series 2 has a easy adjust handle, where this has got two, for the rake angle, where this has got two knobs, and you lock it down. There's a rake angle protractor on the side for your rake angle, and you can go 10 degrees above and 25 degrees, 30 degrees down. So so you can do a 10-degree negative rake on a tool if you get into that kind of material. For those of you that don't understand rake is clearance. You got to have clearance on a tool. Most tools anyway. There's some zero rake tools that they use, but for like non-ferrous metals like brass, copper, those are the type tools, you're going to need more rake. In my world, my lathe, I can cut steel from anywhere from 0 rake to 4 or 5 degrees and do a good job depending on the material. But you take that same tool, put it on brass, and it ratty finish, just doesn't cut right. Throw it on the Accu-Finish, change the rake angle to about 8, throw it right back on the lathe, nice finish again. So those are kind of the two, anywhere from about 4 degrees on steel, 8 degrees on the non-ferrous. It's pretty good general for most things. You know, most of it, like model engineering type stuff, that pretty much does what you need. So anyway, I'll go through the machine here. The machine will lay back so you can lap. There's a locking mechanism here. So it will lap, it'll lay back like that, and you can lap parts back here. And this is where you change your wheel. What's nice, you can go from a roughing wheel, and your settings up front, once you get them where you want them, they don't ever change. So a lot of times if you change something out like that on other grinders, then your you're off. By the time you get back to the same position, you're off. This Accu-Finish, it's accurate. You go right back and from rough to finish, and you're right in the same spot. So, being that it's a low RPM, your 600 grit wheel, if you were on a bench grinder, it would be like a micro finish. But on this low 240 RPM, it's kind of a general purpose wheel, a 600, and a 1200 is a lot finer too. But on a bench grinder, a 1200 would be like, man, you'd burn it up. So the speed does change the finish properties. So this is PCD diamond, and so on the table it has a slide on it, so you can get even wear on your wheel. So I think first of all we'll just do an easy tool here. It'll be this is just a standard carbide insert. We got an insert holder. You guys use a lot of triangle tools for your rotating tool frame. Tiny. What's that? Oh, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, that's our insert holder. It's a bigger version of what you use, but
You have a tiny one?
we don't have a tiny one for yours. Most of you guys, the way I understand, you lap those, so you roll them in the back. I've talked to a couple guys, and they roll the machine in the back and just lap it and get the surface back on the cutter. And we have like a 180 Gator for roughing, 600 medium duty, 1200 ultra fine, and then we do have a ceramic lap that I'll show you that you charge with a diamond spray, and you put a mirror finish on your tool. So, any questions so far?
Use liquid?
Usually you'll just run it dry. If you're doing a lot of like high carbon steel, I talked to a guy who had a high carbon steel, probably be a good idea to use a little wetting agent on there, which we sell. It's kind of a liquid soluble oil, that's what it is that we sell. But for carbide and high-speed steel, most of the time you're going to run it dry, especially carbide. It'll get real muddy. But if you need to clean your wheel, you just take it in the sink, wash it off with some Comet and a light hand brush, and dry it off, and you're good to go. So anyway, what's that?
Yes, you can use a sponge while it's running. Dry.
You know, I've done a lot of machine tools. I've done the IMTS show in Chicago for a lot of years. I didn't do it this year, but you get so busy sharpening that the wheel would get so black, but you didn't have time to go anywhere. So I'd roll it back and put a rag on there just to get the grit off, and it actually got you going again. So, so anyway, this is your rake angle on the side. You can see that. For this tool here, I'm just going to put like a 4 or 5 degree rake angle on it. We'll retouch up the nose, and I'll show you there's no heat to it at all. So right now I've got a 600 grit wheel on it. This machine is not plugged in. It was, I think it came unplugged. In a second. Get it. It's not going. Okay, it's not going anyway. Won't stay plugged in. Okay, good. So yeah, it's running at 240 RPM. I've got a protractor on top of the table, so you can do multiple angles. You're going to do the rake angle and whatever angle you want. Or on something like this, a lot of times you just need to kind of touch it up, so I'm going to just do that. This machine is reversible, so I'll run it back that way since I'm on there. And now this is a tin coated tool, and I've just barely touched it. It took the tin coating off, no heat, and it's ready, it's sharpened. We did a test in our shop. We have CNC equipment. Can you see it? I've just slightly honed that edge. It's probably pretty hard to see from there. Right, that edge all the way up at the top. It's not the whole edge all the way down. It's just the top where it's cutting has been sharpened. And the nose, I've gone around the radius on the nose. Carbide always needs a radius on the nose. And actually, these inserts come with a rolled radius over the side too, which you can address by, we have some diamond files. You could actually touch them up if you need to that way. But
Sharpening wood is a little bit.
yeah, for your wood, it's going to be different. Now we can do the guilloche tools. Takes about a half hour to get it from a brazed carbide tool to what you need, but those can be done. So, and like I say, we have a number of different wheels here. This is our 180 Gator, and you can see it's for roughing. It's got a corrugated type finish on it, so it roughs a lot better that way. And then, like I say, you go to your 600, 1200 ceramic lap. Okay.
Do you still make the wheel with the dovetail angle on the edge?
Yes, we'd make some specialty wheels. We have what we call a face edge wheel. It has about a 1/4 inch diamond. It's on a steel clad wheel. It was actually for a industrial use, but we do that. And then we have a reverse angle wheel that has a 30-degree angle on the back. Works good for like internal threading tools and that kind of thing. So, have a question back there? The next one would be the ceramic lap, and we use a 1 micron diamond spray. And what you would do, and I'll throw this ceramic lap on there. It's real simple to change the wheels. So this is your ceramic lap, made out of ceramic. They're very hard. The quickest way to wear it out is if you drop it on the floor, but other than that, they really hold up a long time. So I've got the ceramic lap on there. What you do when you charge it, diamond spray, shake it up, it all settles at the bottom. Okay, now, so when you get it shaken up, it'll turn white. What's that?
Look at the spring.
Okay, that's your diamond spray. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Just one shot like that is enough to charge that wheel. So then at that point, you let it dry for a little, a half hour or so, and then you're set. You won't have to recharge it again. It'll stay charged, and you probably do 30 tools before you have to think about doing it again. A lot of people make the mistake of charging it every time, and the end result is you get a sharper tool, but it isn't quite a mirror finish. It's kind of milky looking. So when you get to that point, you've overcharged it and it gets sticky and everything. So you'd want to put it in the sink with some coolant, clean it good, let it sit overnight and dry, and then recharge it with one shot the next day, and then you're back going again. So
We go through like 4 diamond grips for polishing. You need 4 wheels.
yes, you do. Yeah, depends. You know, the roughing wheel, of course, that's if you had a bad chip or if you're just starting out.
No, 4 diamond grips or maybe 5.
Yeah. Now, what we have is basically we have some 500 grit wheels. We have different ones, but mainly the 600 work your way up to the 1200, and from the 1200, it's mirror finish after that point.
Going to 50,000, the diamond spray, so you need it. The question is, don't you need 4 ceramic wheels for 4 different diamond grit sprays?
No.
Sir, we can't hear the question, so we can hear the question.
He wants to know if you have to have 4 different diamond ceramic wheels.
4 different ceramic wheels if you're using 4 different grits of diamond spray. You said let it dry, okay?
Uh-huh.
Right, if you want a progression within a few minutes, you need multiple wheels to be available.
At the ceramic lap level, a 1 micron finish to a 1/4 micron finish, you really can't, by the eye, you can't really tell. They're all mirror finishes. So I would say if you got a 1200 grit and you want to go to a 1 micron or a 1/2 micron diamond spray, and the 1/2 micron is 50,000 grit, I would say go from the 1200. If you want a 50 micron, then to go right to
Go
that.
through the grits of the diamond.
No, you wouldn't have to do that. You wouldn't have to have a ceramic lap for 1 micron, a 1/2 micron, and all that. You could actually turn the wheel over and charge it with a different diamond spray on one side after the other if you wanted to, but you don't work your way up the grits on when you get that fine like you do when you're roughing your tool in. Most of the time, unless you really get dull, you'll probably go back to a 600 grit wheel to resharpen after you have the tool sharpened up, and possibly just a 1200. Maybe it's just getting a little dull. Once you get your angles on there, you go back to your settings and just you'll sharpen it right back up. So, and then you can go to your mirror finishes.
You need a mirror finish for black wood.
Yeah. So he says you'll need a mirror finish for the black wood, which you can achieve it on here. So, yes?
The tool you just sharpened, was the wheel going clockwise or counterclockwise?
I had it going clockwise. You can, if I was on the other side of the machine, I'd probably have it going down the other way, so I'd reverse it. I have had some tools that I have just had the wheel coming up when I sharpened it too. You got to hold down on the tool that it doesn't pull it up on you, but there's a few times I do that. But it gives it a little more even wear too that way. So, okay. Any more questions? I'll go through some of the other fixtures. Some of this fixturing is more industrial, but there are applications for what you guys do too. So I'll kind of go through that. The next tool that I have is a tool stop guide. And I'll show you this. This is the tool stop guide. It's adjustable, and it has a stop to catch your collet block on the side or either side. And this part right here is, so let's say you get everything sharpened. This little stop here slides up. You can lock it in. You can put a shim in between there, and that's how you advance it. So if you wanted to take another couple thousandths off or whatever to make sure everything cleaned up, that's how that works. And I'll show you that here in a second. So the tool, there's a peg right here, and it locates right in the top of the machine. Everything that we have locates there, so that's a pivot point.
What's the cost of that jig?
This whole thing, got a price here. Have a couple of different packages. We have one that has all the wheels, 600.
I meant just the jig,
This is the black piece you put on the machine.
just the holder.
Oh, this part right here, the tool stop guide. Okay.
Answer both questions, please.
Yeah. You're not going to hold it against me, are you? Okay, that one is $187. I got a 10% show discount on it, so if you decide you want to order it. Everything in the catalog is 10% off for the show. So there's a little T nut here that goes in the slot on the top of the machine here. Yeah. Let me get it locked in there.
Everything fits the Accu-Finish too as well.
That's correct, yeah, everything fits the other machine too. Tell you what, I'm gonna fold this together so I can, has a lock in here so it locks it together. I'll roll this down, hopefully you'll be able to see it. You can see there's protractor on the top of this table, okay? And this tool here, tool stop guide, locks in right here. I got to screw it, and there's a T-nut that goes in that slot so you can adjust it. Inside of this tool stop guide, there's an arrow, and for an end mill, I'll show you that next. 2-flute end mill. They are ground 1.5 degrees to the center on each side. So you can see the front of the tool, but it's got 2 flutes here, okay? And one side goes to the middle, the other side goes to the middle too, and they're ground. So the end of the tool is going to look like this, okay? So I got to cock this tool stop guide off at 1.5 degrees. You won't be able to see it, but there is a notch in there. You line it up with 1.5 degrees on your protractor, lock it down, and I'm going to do about, probably a couple of degrees down on my protractor for the clearance angle on the top of the tool. So you can see right down here I've got a protractor on the rake angle, and you can see that I'm off about 2 degrees down angle, okay? So if you had this tool in your shop, like say you had a bad flute on it, mark it with like a black Sharpie, and that would be the one that you would start sharpening first until you got it cleaned up. So, and what you do is you run this table over here on the edge of the wheel, and let me get that ceramic off there. I'll just put a 600 on there. Excuse me?
On the left side.
Okay, sure. Okay, I just put a 600 grit wheel on, locking it back together. Okay, this work better for you?
On the table, you can grind on the other side of the guide.
Make the wheel on chemical.
Okay. Okay, I'll have to set it on the other side. Not a problem.
Perfect.
That better?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, what I'm going to try to do, and it'll just take a little bit, is you're going to get the edge of that wheel is going to go through the center line of your cutter. So when you come together, it's just going to basically lap it right in the center line together. So I'll try to move that a little bit. Okay, I'm going to lock the table down. So I'm going to adjust the, I'm going to keep this loose for right now. And you can see when I put that collet block up there, it catches this right here, and this is what will give you a solid stop when you get it sharpened. So first of all, I'm going to leave the front one loose. Okay, see if I can get it to just right. I'm sharpening this flute right here, right now. And I need to scoot my table over just a tad. Okay, probably pretty close. So, this is the flute I'm cutting right here. You can see it's getting it's kind of hard to see without the magnification, but it is sharpening it. It appears to be going right through the center of the tool. So I'm going to pretend like that was the bad flute. I've got the bad part out of it. So at that point, okay. Which one?
Let's try this one.
Okay. I'll hold it you. There we go. So the one flute, you really can't tell a difference at this point. Just the magnification is the problem. But you can see I'm grinding through the tool, and it's right in the grind is right in the center of it. So
Back here, oh, just a little bit more, it's probably a little, there you go. And hold it still so the water will just be right at the.
can you see it? It's kind of hard for me to hold still and look at the same time. Okay. Anyway, I'll pass this around too once we get it sharpened. But I've got the one side cleaned up. It's good and sharp. Okay, you can see I've got this. I'm going to shut this machine off. You see I've got the stop locked, or unlocked. So now I've got the one side sharpened. I'm going to switch it over 180 degrees. I'm going to run up, make sure I got the right one.
Don't you want to set your stop on the good side so that your next flute gets
Yep. Okay, now I've got that, I got it up against the wheel. I'm going to run the stop back. So I have a hard stop. Now I'm going to roll it over. And I will grind this in until it stops grinding. It'll go up to that stop. I'll go back to the other side, do the same thing. It's not quite there. Okay, now this is where you can slide this up. This is another stop. You lock it into the back of the main lock. Loosen the main lock, slide it up. Now you can put, I'll just put my credit card in there so you can see. That's how you would advance it. Lock it back down. Got the thickness of my credit or my card advanced, and then you can go back again and grind in that distance until it stops cutting. It'll go up to the hard stop and quit grinding.
So there was a question from the back.
Okay.
When you're grinding for a long time like you were, is the tool gonna get hot? Should you be?
It really does not get hot. It's running at such a slow RPM that basically the heat goes out with the chip, and it's just not running fast enough to really get a lot. I mean, if you had it there, let's say you were grinding on it for 10 minutes, it would get warm, but I don't think it'd even be warm enough to really to burn you. So, and that's really good. You won't take the taper out of your tool and that. So, okay, now. This end mill has some major relief here, so it's about 20 degrees. So we set your Accu-Finish down, the rake angle to about 20 degrees. So I'll set it about 20. Then you can see we got a lot steeper angle. We'll loosen all this back up. This really isn't all that critical when you get to this point. It's just a relief angle. And then I'll loosen my table. Okay, I'm going to go in here and I'll sharpen the relief angle. That's probably good enough. And I'll go around and I'll lock my tool stop down again. That gives you an idea. That way you can, you'll see as I pass this around what we have achieved. And so you throw this in there, it's evenly cut. You throw it in a mill. Chips will go out both sides, just like a drill. If you have a drill correctly sharpened, you'll have two rat tail chips coming out. You know it's sharpened correctly. This you throw this in a milling machine, it's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna still throw a nice chip. It's both cutters are even, both sides of the cutter are even. So, yes.
To address 3 flutes, 4 flutes.
Okay. 3 flutes. We have a hex collet holder. Okay. So this has got a 5C collet in it, standard 5C collet. And for doing three fluted tools, 6 fluted tools, this is your baby. Reamers, 6 fluted reamers. On a 4 flute end mill, if you have a center cut 4 flute, which means basically it's got a 2 flute end mill, then it's got the 2 pads basically on the side. In order to sharpen that correctly, you're going to have to take, right now this tool, the 2 flutes are really pretty much parallel with this top surface. When you do like one of those, it's a center cut 4 flute, you'd have to loosen it and drop down about probably down to about 5 degrees down. So that way when you sharpen, just that flute on the side is going to catch and sharpen it. If you don't, you'll keep catching one of the flutes, so you have to kind of cock it down, which doesn't hurt anything because you're just doing a flat surface on there anyway. So your regular 4 flute non-center cut, doesn't matter. You can just put it in there like I've got this one, line it up with that top surface because they have a center in them, so you don't have to go all the way to the center of the cutter to sharpen them. So does that make sense? Okay, so 3 flutes though, that's the same thing. You're gonna use the hex cullet, and it's about, I believe it's about 30 degrees on a reamer. I've got a reamer. I'll hook it up here, and we'll look at that here in a minute.
How about center cutting end mills?
That's what I just addressed. He was asking about center cut end mills. Center cut, basically, if you have a 4 flute center cut, it's basically you got a 2 flute end mill, and then you got 1 on each side of that, which doesn't go in the center. The flute doesn't. It's relieved in there, but in the middle of it, you basically got a center cut. You got a 2 flute end mill, correct? You follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, you're going to have to roll this down about 20 degrees, about 5 degrees lower than perpendicular with this surface. So you're going to can it down like just about 5 degrees. That way, like I say, when you're doing these, you have to go to the middle. You aren't catching on another one. It gets it out of the way of the edge of the wheel. So that's how that's done. Okay. I do a lot of threading tools. I make them complete. Now this tool is not a tool that you want to take a lot of material off with at one time. Now you can take 30 thousandths off just on a 600 grit wheel within seconds. But if you're going to do like some kind of a special tool where you need to really take a lot of material, you're going to want to put that on a bench grinder. And of course, watch your heat. Do that, and then come back. This is more basically a finishing tool, and then put your final precise angles on after that. So I'll put a reamer in here. You guys may not use too many reamers in your industry, but just to show you what it will do. Okay. You're following it then? Okay. I don't know what your level is of experience, so I'm trying to be as general and kind of.
There are quite a few machinists in here.
Yeah.
By necessity.
Yeah. Of course, you know this is a 5C collet, standard 5C collet that most machine shops have. So, actually, this came from the demo room. So, let me get it lined up. All right. Of course, you put your nut on the back. I've got a reamer here. Those of you who don't know what a reamer is, this is just your regular reamer. You drill a hole 15 to 30 thousandths undersize, and then you come back with this tool and it reams a nice finish. Halfway, it kind of holds location for you too, but mainly it's the accurate size that you would have. So after a while, these edges right here, there's a taper from the front of the face, and it tapers down to the flute, which is out here. In that taper, right on the edge of that, right there is a corner, and that's what wears out. So that's what we will sharpen up, and it's got 6 flutes. So we got a 6 fluted cullet block with a 1/2 inch cullet in it. So we're going to get the flutes in line. It'll tighten it down. So we're we're going to get these flats in line with the flats in line with the flats on the collet block. We're going to lock it down. I got a spanner wrench here. That locks it down. I'm going to take this tool well, I'm going to loosen this tool stop guide, and we're going to go about 30 degrees. So I looked through the tool stop guide and put it on, I believe it's 30 degrees. And we're going to lock it back in. Same idea. We're going to run it up against that. We're going to run it up against that wheel. There we go. And you can see I've got the tool. I've got just that face of the tool that I'm wanting to sharpen there. And I'm going to run this back. I'll sharpen just a little bit, just like I did earlier. We'll just do a little bit there. Okay. Put that sharpened area up against the diamond wheel, and I'm going to lock my tool stop down just like I did on that end mill. So you can see I've got a steeper angle. Okay. So now I've got it set. I got the one flute sharpened. I'm going to roll it over to the next land. Start up again, and we're going to grind it into the stop, and we'll do that all the way around. And when you get done, that reamer is totally sharpened again, and everything's even because you got the tool stop guide to stop you when it grinds. So that's, and you do a three fluted tool the same way. You'd use a 6-sided collet block to do a 3-fluted tool. We also have an attachment that I don't have here, but it's for gun drills. A lot of mold makers use them. And of course it came out of the gun industry for drilling the holes for gun barrels. So we have an attachment that has a plate on there, has a fixture that holds the gun drill, and you go through a number of steps and it will sharpen it. It does a faceted grind on it, and so we do have the option for that too. So a lot of these tools, you can sharpen them yourself. Some of them you may have to kind of get a little inventive on holding, because we don't have everything to hold everything. But a lot of these, what I've showed you here is pertinent to what you guys do. So, anybody have any questions? Yeah. Yeah, we sell a microscope package, I think is what you're asking. When you use like a CBN tool, they're basically like a diamond type tool. They go, when you're using them, they just don't get a good finish anymore. But you can look at them by the naked eye and say, man, radius looks good. Well, I don't know what's wrong. But when you get it, I've sharpened them for people and sent them to them to try. Under the magnification, you see the flat. Once you get underneath the microscope, you can see that flat. So then at that point, it's kind of delicate, but you can kind of start, just get like a 1200 grit wheel and just blend it back in, get the radius matching up, and you're good. So that's real, the really micro type sharpening, they're real handy for that. So I'm not hearing you.
I inspect my tools with the microscope and I take it off to do that.
Okay.
I just didn't know, I was wondering if there was special uses for the microscope on. I know you can see.
I've had people put a microscope on a small lathe doing really small parts because they couldn't see what they were doing, and they were actually using a microscope, you know. So yeah, and of course, our main industry is engraving. We teach engraving classes and manufacture the equipment, and everybody in our class uses a microscope to engrave under. So yeah, it's very essential to get really, if you're really needing to watch what you're doing and see what you're doing. When you look underneath a microscope, it's like you're in the middle of a football field, but you're inside of a pinhead. But you know, so it really makes a big difference. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, I grind my high-speed steel till it gets red, very red, and I don't lose any hardness. Why do we care about heat?
Actually, high-speed steel's good up to red hot. You get it red hot, you're taking a chance of losing your temper. So that's why you really don't want to get that hot. Carbide, of course, you get that hot. Before you get that hot, you're going to be quenching your high-speed steel. Get some water, keeping it cool. Now your carbide, you get it that hot, you really don't want to quench it because it's so hard it'll fracture it. So you want to watch your heat on both of them. The carbide, you know, when you were a kid, you get marbles and boil them, and then immediately once it got hot, you throw them in cold water and they'd crack. Same thing. You want to watch that with carbide, that you don't overheat it. Even though it doesn't show the heat as bad as high-speed steel, it's not a good thing to get it that hot and quench it. All right. See what else I have here. Of course, I use a lot of brazed carbide tools in my shop. It's cheap, and I got the method to sharpen them, so I do a lot of that. I make all my threading, internal, external threading tools from scratch with high-speed steel usually. And like I say, when you get done, you're right back where you were when you go to sharpen them. You put the settings the same and touch it up, and you're right back going. A lot of times too, I have quick change holders like you guys have on these Rose engines. There's a lot of the tools, I leave them in the holder. They get dull, I put them on the machine, touch them up, like cut-off tools. There's a lot of modification you can do. You know, there's a lot of tools that when you're on a lathe, like a cut-off tool, sometimes you'll want to have it a degree or two angle on it. So when you get done facing the end of the part, there's like a tit on there where you can make it to where there isn't. A lot of the tools out of the box are like 2, 4, 6, 8, the degree. If you want a 1 degree, you can make it. You know, you can. It's just nice to be able to modify, and you can actually make your tool better than it was out of the box. And so it's a very handy tool. That's about all I have for today. You guys have any questions or anything? We don't have anything to swing and radius. Wish we did. It's by hand. You can get pretty good at doing it by hand, especially if you already have one on there, you're just touching up. You use a light diamond wheel or something and it'll touch it right up, and you won't really take a lot off of it. I know you guys have the 2-cutter type triangular inserts for your frame. They, of course, you might get one too short, one too long, so most of the time you need to probably, the best thing is to probably just put them on there and lap that top surface on there and get them sharpened that way. That way you can put them back in, the radius is still the same length, but you're going to have a sharper surface again. So.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, thank you.